council meeting for Monday, January the 9th at the Shaw Auditorium here in downtown Nanaimo. And we'll start off by calling the meeting to order and ask Ms. Harrison, could you walk us through the late items, please?
Thank you, Your Worship. Add page 16.1, crime statistics and clearance rates, to item 5A, presentations, Superintendent McPhail. Add item 7A, Mayor's Report, announcement. Delete item 11F3, staff reports, property maintenance bylaw 1990, number 3704 for 135 Prideaux Street. Delete item 11G, staff reports, unsafe structure at 45 Chapel Street.
Thank you. Could we ask for a motion to, as amended? Move and second. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Moving into, Council President, did you have something? No. In the adoption of the minutes? Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Move into now the presentations, and Superintendent McPhail, I believe, is here. And Superintendent McPhail is the officer in charge of Nanaimo RCMP detachment, and he's going to provide a quarterly update on the Nanaimo RCMP detachment operations and a presentation regarding annual police priorities. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Your Worship, councillors, staff. Pleased to be here this evening to speak about our annual performance plan as well as our quarterly statistics. Council has been provided some reference material in terms of the crime statistics for the quarter and comparators for last year. I'm going to be speaking to the quarter, basically October to December, basically through that period of time, as well as our annual performance plan. The RCMP annual performance plan is a measure that we utilize to sort of test our resolve and success in terms of our overall achievements in terms of policing and the resources that are committed to us. The priorities for the RCMP for this past 2011-2012 year have been crime reduction, youth, traffic, and downtown core. Now, specific to those, the annual policing priorities with regards to crime reduction is under the crime reduction banner for 2011-2012. We worked on prolific offender management, which is our POM group, our BACAR program, which is a provincial initiative that assists us with crime in regards to that, and our liquor control strategy. To speak to that, prolific offender management, sort of in regards to how we deal with prolific offenders, is you've got some options in terms of that. You either quit crime, you get out of town, or you go to jail. And basically, we work with other groups to try to deal with offenders that are chronic and deal with the issues that they cause. The BACAR program has been fairly slow this past quarter. We haven't had a lot of activations in terms of the use of the car. We do have some thefts and the like that have occurred from vehicles and the like, but it is down. With regards to our liquor control strategy, we're looking at expanding that into the north, into some of the premises that operate there. To give some recaps for the stats, with regards to crime reduction, arson is up overall. We do keep different statistics than fire, but ours is up overall, and that has to do with a series of fires we've had and some investigations we have ongoing. Our sex offenses have shown up in the crime stats to be up 19%. Now, that is related somewhat to historical cases that end up adding numbers to the current time year as opposed to compared to past. Weapons offenses are down 1%. Our burglary situation in residential is up. Now, that is attributed to some offenders that have been released back from the system that are back active, and we're working investigations on those, but we're up 50% in that area. So we're focusing some resources on that to bring that down. Now, on a positive note, we also have numbers down and up in terms of business. Now, our business numbers are up significantly, or down significantly, around 9%. Which is important for us. Theft over 5,000 is up 12%. Shoplifting's up. However, significantly, our mischief to property is down. And that's graffiti and things like that. That's important. This quarter, significant in terms of property, because we have those offenders that are out, that are committing new offenses, as well as it is Christmas season, so there are more targets available as shoppers are out and that type of thing, as well as people are away from their homes and celebrating holidays and the like. So the burglaries residentially are up. Fatal crashes are down 26%. And that's significant, 70% in terms of reductions. And we attribute that to the immediate roadside prohibition legislation that was brought in. That significantly impacted people's attitudes in terms of driving or driving while impaired, and that's shown up in the numbers to be reduced in the province overall. 40% of deaths there were compared to last year. They've been reduced by 40%. Drug trafficking is down at the present time, and drug production is down at the present time, and our prostitution, or at least overt prostitution within town, is down significantly as well. Any questions so far?
Okay, we do have some. Let's use push the buttons there. Councillor Brennan.
I didn't actually understand what you meant when you were talking about sex offenses being up, and you attributed that to historical cases and how that changed the current numbers, and I don't understand that.
Okay. If we receive a complaint from somebody who is the victim of a historical sexual abuse, it may go over a period of years. Okay. What ends up happening is a number of offenses get reported in the period, which may have occurred several years ago. So that's part of the reason the numbers are up so much more, but good to clarify. Thank you for that.
Just a couple of very quick questions, if I could. You mentioned very briefly about the driving prohibition. Can you just touch on where we are now? I think it's gone before the Supreme Court again for revision, and I think it's on for another 6-month review, is it? Or where are we exactly? The
Supreme Court, or actually the provincial court, ended up overturning the immediate roadside prohibition process, ruling it was unconstitutional, needed to be reviewed, and went back to the criminal sanctions. So presently we're operating that we have the immediate roadside prohibition for anything below and a warning. We still use that, but anybody that blows a fail, we now use the criminal process solely as opposed to using the immediate roadside prohibition. So it affects things. In terms of the last 2 months, our enforcement is down in terms of cases. However, we had 12 in November and 9 in December in terms of criminal prosecutions for impaired driving. I should note, and I'll get into that, the traffic side, is that we had significant amounts of impaired driving apprehensions as well, in the realm of 500 and some, but I'll give you that statistic. Our officers were out there quite diligent in dealing with that very issue. Moving on to youth. Youth is a priority for the RCMP. We have a number of initiatives which are listed there, which is drug abuse, resistance education, or better known as DARE, our Preventing Alcohol and Related Trauma in Youth, which is the PARTY program, which is a program where we educate youth on the dangers of driving while impaired or taking rides in vehicles where persons may be impaired. And also our school liaison program, which we're quite proud of, that is involved in all of the schools with finding problem youth, assisting problem youth, dealing with issues of bullying. With respect to their school liaison program, we have 3 positions and 1 corporal, and they basically 4 resources dedicated to that. Our prevention measures are basically set on bullying, internet safety, drug, and basically the DARE Party program. They also do criminal investigations on the school properties. They set as advisors for the school district. They do seminars and workshops on vandalism, sexual orientation, gender identity, and graffiti. They work day shifts for Fridays, and there's an afternoon shift to assist with related issues that go on at the school. The summertime, they're engaged with following some of the youth that may have challenges, or being engaged with the youth over the summer period or during break periods. Any questions on youth?
Councillor Graves.
Thank you, Worship. Yes, I was recently at a meet and greet, and one of the trustees was concerned about the school liaison program, and I understand that there's 7 schools involved in the liaison program.
That is correct.
Or there was 7, and they were concerned that now it's they said 3.5, but I hear you say 4. So
officers dedicated to school liaison. That's correct.
So they want 3 more. So what do you say about that?
In terms of, it's very successful for us. Balancing priorities with regards to crime reduction did take a lot of those resources over. There was 7 officers at one point in time several years back. There was initiatives they went into with basically youth that yielded some success, but it did take from the youth, from our school liaison program. Resourcing, I do have discussions as also about provincial resourcing for that type of thing, and it's a discussion that I'm having with the school district and others and with this council. How could we enhance resources that way? I have to send the resources presently to deal with the priority issues, youth being one of them for our programs and how we work. But in terms of taking away and adding resources, the resources recently we received are for frontline investigation patrol, which council approved, and that's what we're working at the present time. But I'm definitely open to influence with regards to that, and we do have a lot of success with that. Our youth are our future. So,
Thank you.
Okay, we have Councillor Patchy.
Thank you, Worship. Evening, Superintendent. In the school liaison program, can you expand a little bit what, if anything, the program does with regards to bullying, which comes up every once in a while and is a serious problem?
Yeah, we have significant anti-bullying program presentations, Facebook accounts, ways to contact the youth so that if there are bullying issues within the school, that we can actually impact them directly. It's taken probably as a number one priority over actually our drug problems within the schools, that there are drug challenges, but bullying seems to be a very significant one, especially with the internet and the use of the internet, is that there is a lot of stuff that we're finding that we're having to work fairly closely on. So it is something that we're dealing with. Does that assist you?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I see no further questions now. Go ahead.
With respect to traffic services, I'd like to speak to our immediate roadside prohibition success. The Nanaimo detachment with our traffic unit apprehended 450 impaired drivers over the course of this period, over the course of this annual period, which is an increase of 67%. The legislation did streamline the process somewhat, so there were more vehicles checked. We still are having success, and as Your Worship had asked, is our statistics may become somewhat unstable as the legislation is being dealt with and changes in the legislation, so the reporting will be somewhat different, but I expect that we're still going to give it priority, but in terms of ease, it's going to add to the case burden and investigative time to present cases to the courts. Also under drinking and driving and vehicle safety is distracted drivers is an ongoing problem. I see it time and time again where persons are on their BlackBerries or cell phones within cars, and it's related to vehicle accidents, pedestrian accidents, and something we're trying to enforce. We're working with the IRSU unit or our integrated road safety units on combined programs where we have unmarked vehicles out to try to apprehend people that are not properly using it, and we're trying to do more in terms of education and stressing that Superintendent Motor Vehicles and others help us with that. There's a lot of incidents that are tied to that, as anyone can attest to, when it's too late, when they've bumped off the back of a car in front of them or bumped into a pedestrian. That's unfortunate. So we need to do a little bit more work in regards to that, but we're working on it. Over the past year, we had an opportunity to bring in a marine patrol, which we brought under traffic services. There was a lot of need, and the province, basically the provincial business line, gave us an opportunity to use some seasonal policing funds to bring out our officers, and they've supplied a vessel where we could actually do the waterfront in Nanaimo. So we did some enforcement and did it as a test case and did 84 contacts, and in that had 61 vessel checks and issued 16 vessel warnings, apprehended one impaired driver, and we provided assistance to Canada Border Services. There was 4 improper operation of vessel tickets issued, and there was 1 collision that we investigated on the waterfront. Just as it was done as a test case, usually on the tail end of events, like when Bathtub Fest was on, and it just gave us another presence and an ability to at least police the waterfront a little better. We're working with the province on that now, or at least the provincial business line, who've provided us a vessel full-time. And we want to crew that and put a crew to it and resources to it going forward with this council's approval, of course, to do more stuff tied to our special events and have the waterfront covered off as well, provided that the province is providing with some funding to support that as well. Any questions at all on that?
We have a couple. Councillor Patchy.
Thank you, Worship. Superintendent, where it pertains to drinking and driving enforcement, how does your detachment deal with people who are driving under the influence of drugs as opposed to alcohol? We have,
I believe at the present time, 8 officers trained with drug recognition as drug recognition experts. And basically what they would be called is to the scene of an incident where it's suspected that someone is impaired by drug. They will do a number of physical tests and examine examinations to determine if it's there. They'll provide evidence to the court as to that, and they'll do an apprehension if it is evident that the person is impaired and not properly operating a vehicle, and do a criminal prosecution in regards to that if it's warranted, or do a driver's license suspension if that's what's warranted at the time. Thanks for that question. It's a great question.
Thank you.
Superintendent, just a very quick one. When it comes to the Marine section, which is apart from the RCMP Marine Division per se, this other one is under your command, I would assume. How does that work? Are you staying largely within the city of Nanaimo? You'll do lakes as well as the ocean?
That's correct. We actually did some initiatives on the lakes as well, because there's a lot of drinking and driving on boats and the lake. So it is done on the lake areas as well. It's a portable vessel, 22 feet long, highly mobile. Easily trailerable. We pull it behind the police truck. We have moorage provided to us by the yacht club on the waterfront at no cost, and we also have storage facility within the municipal yard. The vessel is kept up by provincial funds, and overtime in the lake, if it's required, is provided by the seasonal policing fund. So far, it's an added tool. It's really adding and enhancing our operational planning.
Good, thank you.
Any other questions?
No others.
Now, the downtown core, basically our bike patrol under the liquor control strategy has had a lot of success with the downtown core, so much so that we're wanting to expand that into the north and central. A lot of good stuff is happening in regards to not only drinking and driving, but behavior within establishments, cooperation with establishments. So downtown core, very important. I can't sort of get into downtown core without talking about the recent Occupy Nanaimo as well. Our bike patrol was front and center in that. Diana Crawl was occupied for 7 weeks and involved up to 500-600 people over a point in time. We have monitored and liaised with the protesters, as did the city, bylaws department, and others. We assisted with the city as well as bylaws and the protesters in negotiating for some community events to take place during that period of time. And eventually it was ended by virtue of a court injunction, and very peacefully. And I'm very proud of that aspect. The liquor control strategy, again, it's full-time and it's managed through our bike unit. Our bike unit is front and center with regards to the liquor control strategy. Several individuals have been apprehended who are linked to organized crime activity and have been banned from the downtown establishments. Extra policing resources have been scheduled for New Year's, but proved to be not a non-event for us. We had a very peaceful New Year's. And then with respecting to disorder, Bike Unit hosts weekly meetings with the homeless outreach support team, assertive community treatment teams, private downtown security patrols, City of Nanaimo Parks Rec, cultural security meetings, Downtown Business Improvement Association meetings, and meetings with other community stakeholders. It's important to us that Tillicum-Lelam, as the drop-in center, is monitored on a day-to-day basis. We've got all kinds of partnerships downtown with the Bike Unit and others, and I'm interactive with those groups as well. Downtown Nanaimo Business Improvement Association. But as I've said, in my 6 months that I've been here now, is I'm seeing the need to expand that into the north, expand that beyond our downtown successes. There's still work to do, of course, and we have to be on top of it, but I'm very proud of this, what's been done with the downtown strategy. Having come to Nanaimo over numbers of years, I've seen drastic improvements with what you've done. Any questions on that?
I don't see any questions, but if I could, just at this point, you brought up the Occupy Nanaimo, and I just wanted to comment on the fact that, and express the appreciation to the RCMP on behalf of Council, and the job in particular that Corporal Dave LaBerge did with the bike unit, and I think there's 8 members in his unit, and they did an outstanding job. It was a very difficult one, and I think they handled it with a great deal of care and respect. I think those people that were involved with Occupy Nanaimo had a message they wanted delivered. I think the RCMP and Corporal LaBerge's unit allowed them to do that, and I think it was handled very respectfully, and I just want to say thank you very much, because I think it was a job very well done.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Nuisance properties as well is something we manage in the downtown, and we're expanding that to part of the south. And the bike unit works with Bylaws Department, Fire Rescue, BC Hydro, and South End Neighborhood Association and others to address some root problems that we would have with specific specific properties. These nuisance properties do cause problems and risks and issues for policing, and we have a very effective means to deal with that through the nuisance property bylaw and how we manage that whole process. So something very successful for us. I want to speak under that too, that it's vital to us that the community contacts us and let us work on issues and give us opportunity to deal with issues. Lots of times there's issues out there that need to be known to us and give us an opportunity to respond to them. We have a lot of resources and a lot of means to deal with situations. So basically, if there's crime issues, and also rest assured that we monitor all of that stuff. As you'll see with the crime statistics, we have a crime analyst that monitors and manages those issues. I have daily briefings with my staff and speak to where we're allocating resources and putting issues or putting resources to issues and that type of thing. So overall, those have been the annual performance plan policing issues for us over the course of this past area, or at least this past period. But are there specific questions at all with regards to those before I move on with the presentation?
Okay, I see one, Councillor Patchy.
Well, I could wait till the end, but it's kind of on my mind, so I'll ask you now. In the last month, I have read 2 media reports, one as recently as yesterday, that Nanaimo is very high on the list of most dangerous cities to live in, and I'd like your comments on that.
That was a Maclean magazine article, and Gary O'Brien, our media spokesperson, wrote to that right away. I know that overall Nanaimo's crime rate is down 26% overall. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't have crime in Nanaimo, but as a dangerous city, I find Nanaimo to be a safe place to live, a well-managed place to live. I do not feel that we have rampant crime. Statistics are statistics, and you can report on them however you wish, but we do allocate the resources to the crime problem areas, and more in a collaborative way. We work with community, we work with other social agencies to deal with the root causes of crime, and have a lot of success in that regard. Nanaimo, in my time as government liaison working in criminal justice reform, was held out as a success story for all the work they were doing with prolific offender management, all the things they were doing with homeless shelter, all the things that they were doing with dealing with crime issues, revitalization of course, and then managing in a collaborative way. So I take, that's an article that was written by someone. I don't necessarily take it that Nanaimo is an unsafe city to live in. Does that assist you, Councillor?
And we certainly agree with you. Okay, I see no other questions. Go ahead.
Now, moving on, I'm looking for Council's approval, and it is further on in your agenda, but I'm looking for Council's approval for next fiscal year, or for our next fiscal year, but into 2012-2013, to introduce the same general themes in terms of policing priorities for our annual performance plan, which is crime reduction, youth, traffic, and downtown. But I wanted to sort of present on that, what specifically we're wanting to do, and have Council hear that. And if Council supports that, ask that that be approved so we continue on forward with the annual performance plan going into your fiscal year and into the federal fiscal year for me. Our major headings are to stay consistent. As again, I'm looking for approval. The details in crime reduction is the prolific offender management program continues to offer positive results for the community. We have approximately 36 prolific offenders. 12 are incarcerated, 12 are in active probation reporting, and 12 are kind of not current. We're working on a number of things with the prolific offenders, but we have a triage where we deal with those cases with probation and others and have a lot of success with that. So prolific offender management, pretty important piece to keep in there for us in terms of how we're moving forward. It's a whole strategy. The liquor control strategy, we've had a lot of success with the downtown bars. I'd like to expand that, and I have been working to expand that into the north. There are some places that are not necessarily liquor primary establishments, but they're frequented by individuals that are of questionable background for us in policing, some linked to gang activity, and we want to do some active work with the owners of those premises to try to have the same success we've had in the downtown core. We want to add in under our basically crime reduction, violence in relationships, as we hired, we basically assigned an investigator full-time to domestic violence. And over the course of the year, she's investigated 70 specific cases with very good results. As you can appreciate, violence in relationships is a very high-risk area. It's a very difficult area to manage for policing because of the will of the complainants and the need for support and families and counseling and the like. So we've had a lot of success with that. So under that banner of crime reduction, we want to include violence in relationships as a policing priority. And then again, drug enforcement. If you would have saw, there was a press article yesterday about a white team. And we have a municipal drug unit that works a lot of the supply of drugs to Nanaimo. We've got street drugs that are prolific, and they're related directly to property crimes and the like. So we've assigned the general duty officers to work more closely with the plainclothes officers on what we call a white team. And the white team is to deal with the chemical drugs, methamphetamine, to deal with cocaine, to deal with heroin at the street level. So a lot of enforcement with regards to that. And then obviously, on our priorities of, you get out of crime, or you get out of town kind of thing, or you get out of the business or move on. So quite important for us. Now, again, we want to keep with youth, because youth are our future, and youth is something that we're wanting to stay with. So mentorships is something that the school liaison officers are working with different youth within schools, within universities, not only for policing, but for other careers in public safety. And we've got a lot of work going on there. Drug awareness education, or DARE, very important to stay in. But the anti-bullying piece that was spoken to is that we want to expand that even more. And we do have some restorative justice measures, but there is a lot of bullying. I'm not saying it's out of control, but if we're not dealing with it effectively, there can be very dire consequences for that. And how people grow up, it's quite important they grow up with their head held high. So however we can help them, we'll do our part in that.
Okay, sorry, I was going to say we do have one question now. I'm sure. Go ahead, Councillor Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Superintendent. I just had a question in regards to the increase of incidents in regard to the date rape drug in the downtown, and I was wondering what the RCMP were doing in order to bring that rate of incident down.
What normally happens in a case like that, I can't speak specifically to that one case, but what I can say is if we have that type of complaint, the first thing is having the victim properly examined to determine, what has occurred, that proper investigation is taken up, and then it's shared with it, obviously through our Bar Watch program and the like, to look out for that. There's messaging that is given within the bars as to what people should watch out for in terms of open drinks. When it comes to specific cases, they're all investigated very thoroughly and try to come to an outcome. Were you looking for something specific on that case, or were you looking for generally how we respond? Okay. Any other questions?
Yes, there is. Councillor Kipp, go ahead.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. I really appreciate the fact that you're here speaking to the public, too. Much appreciated. Seniors' crimes, con artists and stuff like that, are we being subjected to much of that now? Telephone frauds and those type of frauds?
Electronic fraud, or we're actually, there's a lot of challenges for policing in terms of all the internet crime, internet-related crime. We've had a lot of success in terms of counterfeit. There's been a lot of counterfeit currency that's been passed, and we've apprehended quite a few individuals for that. As to internet crime within Nanaimo that's any different than anywhere else, it's not. Frauds, we have the typical fraud scams that exist, and we effectively deal with them and apprehend the individuals involved. In terms of examining the evidence, we have some challenges that I'm working on at the present time with having a tech crimes investigator that actually can properly download the information for the courts. And that's a discussion I'm having with city staff about how we'll allocate resources and deal with that specific issue. So it's out there. So
a follow-up is that I hope if people do feel they've been scammed, especially anyone that feels that they feel embarrassed, so please report it. Don't feel embarrassed.
Exactly.
Go after the person. They're the criminal, not you. The second one, the prolific offenders in the B&Es and residential, that spike up to 50-something% is really by a few people that get tossed out in the street again after they go through the system and they're out there and they're offending, and that's why it bumps up.
We are a terminal city, too, and with that, we have new people showing up all the time. And as a result of that, passers-by and the like, we have to be right on top of that. We have a very good network of contacts that assist us with finding out who's doing what. So when we have a spike like residential burglaries, one person heading through town can do 10 or 15, if no one's home and it's not reported to us, can do 10 or 15 homes in the day. So we have to be right on top of that. So, patrols are very important. Having a police presence out there is very important. Having access to intelligence is very important. We've had a lot of success. We know who's doing the crime. It's a matter of properly apprehending them and bringing them before the courts.
Thank you.
One more question, Councillor Bestwick.
Thank you, Superintendent McPhail. Just as it relates to bullying on school board properties and the initiative to mitigate or lessen or educate on bullying, is it reasonable then to assume that those programs are done in a joint use process with the school board trustees and through a joint initiative?
Through a joint initiative, unless it's such a situation that it's so drastic, which we have not had, then it would be outside of that parameter. But on the normal cases, the routine cases, it's a collaboration with the school and with the parents and with others in terms of the individuals that are involved in the incidents. If there is any criminality to it, we investigate that separately.
Thank you. And if I may, Your Worship, just so then the feeder system, the feeder schools, the elementary schools that lead into the 3.5 members that you have that are with the school liaison component, do they deal with, do they have their own assigned schools at the elementary level that they deal with for this program?
The school liaison officers monitor all the schools and are in collaboration with the school district as well as to what issues exist. Cheryl Armstrong, our community policing sergeant, is in constant contact with the school district, with the trustees, finding out what we have for challenges, not only that way, but through the schools as well, through the principals, vice principals. And it is known that the police follow up through the school liaison program and otherwise too, but those are the conduits for making the contacts.
Thank you.
Appreciate the question.
Yeah, no further questions.
So moving on with youth, community partnerships is a huge part, and you were just speaking to it, Councillor Bestwick, with regards to that. Lifestyle education for youths as well, and that has to, as opposed to calling it drugs, you know what, it's about a lot more than that. It's about bullying, it's about lifestyle, it's about proper choices, it's about all those things. And what are we giving to the youth in terms of that, in terms of modeling? And then moving again, traffic. Traffic always remains a priority. There's always constant calls for service with regards to traffic. Accidents when they occur, or crashes when they occur, need to be investigated. Like I talked about, distracted driving is an issue for us. We do have our whole motorcycle enforcement program where we've had some fairly interesting results with regards to loud noise or proper use and handling of those type of vehicles. And again, marine patrols, I've spoke to it before. I'd like to continue on that with this council's approval, to move on that with support funding from the province. Any questions with regards to traffic?
Not at this time.
And again, the downtown, but as I've spoke to the downtown, the liquor control strategy, it's essential we stay on top of what gains we've already made. We have to stay and be proactive with that, keep those relationships up. Nuisance properties, we have to stay on top of that. But as I've spoke to, is I want to increase that concept or push that concept out to the whole community. There are concerns with the community about certain crime issues that exist. We're all over that stuff, but the community needs to know that. It's part of the reason why I'm standing here today, is to speak to the public about that type of thing and provide what information I can, and speak to this council about the things that the police are doing in the community. That generally is my presentation for today, but I just wanted to be up front and speak to what we're doing in town and answer any questions this council may have and that the public may be interested in.
Okay, I see no further questions at this time, and what I might ask, if somebody on council would like to move, and someone also second, that we bring forward 11A, the RCMP annual policing priorities. There's a seconder. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. So if we can deal now, Ms. Harrison, with 11A, Community Safety and Development, RCMP annual policing priorities. Staff recommendation the council approve the RCMP annual policing priorities for 2012-2013 as listed in this report and as discussed by Superintendent McPhail, or as amended. Yeah, I think it's on the floor. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you,
Thank you, sir.
Councillor.
Appreciate the information. presentation. So now we're going to move into delegations, and these we're going to deal with 6A, which is delegations pertaining to the 2012-2016 financial plan. And the first delegation we have here is Mr. Robert Allen Fuller. Mr. Fuller. Welcome, sir. You have up to 10 minutes.
My name's Robert Fuller. I live at 3350 Hammond Bay Road. Your Worship, Council, etc. Or, excuse me, Your Worship, Councillor, ladies and gentlemen, I'm a little bit nervous here. What I would like to talk about is the 2012-2016 financial plan for the City of Nanaimo. I will try not to mince words, and I will try to be as clear as I possibly can be and concise in what I want to say. Some may find what I am saying echoing their opinions, and others may be offended. But in the end, it is this ability to state one's opinion which makes this forum and subject so important. This is from the heart and hopefully bespeaks a bit of common sense, but in the end, it is one person's opinion. It is my opinion. Nanaimo's 2012 to 2016 financial plan will define what happens fiscally in the next few years. As Mr. Ron Boland says, it is a living tissue that both defines and binds the city. That being said, it is truly the citizens of Nanaimo that make up the true fabric of our city, be it the mill worker at Harmac, the single parent trying to make ends meet in the South End, the homeless person asking for change on the street corner, the restaurateur hoping for business in the downtown core, the police officers, firefighters working for the public good, or the retiree in the North End living on a fixed income. It is all of us people living in this fair city that define it. Without us, that's all of us, there would be no city. You, the Council of Nanaimo, were elected to represent all of us citizens, to be our voice in this financial plan that will take us forward into the future. The 2012-2016 financial plan brings with it tax increases of possibly 16% over the next few years, in the neighborhood of quite possibly well over $500 over the term of it for each family. While we face official unemployment figures of 7.5%, it is probably quite higher factoring folks that have ran out of employment insurance, are on social assistance, etc. I dare say it could quite possibly bring these figures up to 20% plus range. Recent layoffs at Mel's Peanut Gardens of 177 workers only add to this. Economists seem to think that in 2012 alone could possibly be a year in turmoil. What with slower stagnant growth in the U.S., coupled with problems in Europe, what with the economies in Greece, Italy, Spain, Ireland in the toilet, housing starts in the city are probably, in my opinion, at best going to remain slow, and I personally don't expect employment figures to get any better in the near future. We do seem to have one growth industry, and that seems to be the expansion of food banks. The publicly is consistently being told to tighten their belts, and we try to. Most of us are trying to make the best of things, raise our families, pay our mortgages or rent, put enough aside so our children can have a better future. We see ourselves with minimal at best growth in our incomes, many of us even falling further behind. I myself haven't seen a raise in over 3 years. At the same time, taxes continue to rise, hydro rates rise, healthcare premiums rise, ad infinitum. At the same time, city expenditures and the cost of bureaucracy seem to increase dramatically. Don't get me wrong, really, honestly. Most knowledgeable people realize that we have to pay taxes for the things we enjoy as citizens of this city. We have to pay for services such as water, garbage pickup, parks, swimming pools. We have to pay for upkeep of infrastructure. All of this said, we are also being tired of being told to tighten our belts as government seems to spend. What it all comes down to is there really needs to be a happy medium. We, that is the taxpaying citizen, are tired of being picked clean. While what I have said may all seem to be doom and gloom, it does not necessarily have to be so. We live in what can be said at times a vibrant and caring community. Our natural environment is an envy that others can only hope and dream for. City Council now has the task of reviewing and voting on this financial plan. This should be done in an open, transparent, and unbiased way. City staff can recommend this plan to Council and the public, but it is up to Council to vote on this proposal based on the wants and needs of the people that they represent. That is the 80,000 plus citizens that make up the city of Nanaimo. This is no small task, but I urge each and every member of Council to scrutinize this financial plan with care and diligence. And if changes can be made to reduce the burdens on the citizens, please be cognizant of this. We have no option but to trust you to do your best on our behalf. That said, I have a few questions pertaining to the financial plan. The first one has been written about in the financial plan, and it concerns the new City Hall annex. Can costs be minimized by using existing office equipment, etc., rather than buying new?
Well, maybe you should do you want us to deal with them one at a time now? It might be easier than having everyone try to remember what the questions are. Does someone on staff want to, okay, Mr. Holmes, do you want to deal with that?
Yes, the answer is yes.
You're on and it's still yes, is it?
The answer is yes.
Okay.
Okay. Is the city covered as to cost overruns in the building of said project?
Your Worship, Council has established a budget of $15.7 million, and that's all the money that's available. So the project will come in within that or under that.
And there's no cost overrun allowance?
There is contingency built within that.
Within that figure?
Yes.
Is there a guarantee on the project, that is to say like a warranty, that the city is not liable to fix things that may not be built up to expectations?
Your Worship, there are a number of components of the building that each have a different type of warranty. The HVAC is an excellent example of that. That will be backed by manufacturers, as well as being holding the designing engineers to account for its design and its operation and installation. Also, the contract contains provisions of the state of the building at the time it's turned over and for an operating period thereafter.
Yes, sir.
And for why in heaven's name was this project not put up to public tender? Well, I'm sure many are happy that the project was awarded to a local company. Is it not up to Council to ensure that we get the best bang for our buck and that this is done in an open manner rather than behind closed doors? This
Okay,
is
well,
all things.
let's answer that question for you, and I
Can I
think,
just finish, please?
okay, you have more than that on the, I thought you wanted to know about.
Just a tiny bit, it's all in this same section.
Okay, it's just that we're just trying to move it along. Your 10 minutes is up very quickly now, so I just want to move it along as quickly as we can to help you.
This is all things being said, a rather expensive project for the tax-paying public to support.
We understand.
Yes.
You were looking for an answer?
Your
Mr. Holmes, go ahead.
Certainly, Your Worship. The council issued an expression of interest call and was looking for a solution for office space as opposed to a specific type of building. So it was looking for the possibility of existing buildings or a new building on city property or a new building possibly on privately owned property. Council received 15 submissions from 13 proponents, and I think amongst those there were 3 submissions for construction at 411 Dunsmuir, and Council chose the least expensive of those.
Okay, sir?
I still don't know why it wouldn't go to public tender.
Well, it did inform.
Just doesn't seem...
Yeah, it did inform, because what we did is ask for it, and we had 15 responses, which is quite significant, we felt. And that 15, I think, represented most of the major contractors in town. So I think that staff was satisfied, and I think council was at the time, that the process was open, and everyone who wanted to build it had a chance to bid on it. So 15 responses is quite significant. We expected something less than half a dozen. We were surprised there was that many offers.
It just seems to me that the expense of the project and the reflection that it's going to do to city borrowing and on our taxes, I believe it still should have gone to public tender after all is well and said. That is just my
Okay.
opinion.
Good point, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Well done.
Okay. Second, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Is there anyone else now that would like to speak specifically to matters related to the 2012-2016 financial plan?
Can you hear me?
Can we ever?
My name is Grace Tixon, and I represent the Nanaimo Harbor City seniors for this meeting. I just want some questions clarified before I go to the Parks and Recreation Culture. We had a rumor that we were going to lose our bus. They have senior bus trips that we've been going on for quite a few years. And they assume now that they want to privatize it and have it with other businesses. Well, we all know what happens when that happens. All you have to look at is the BC Ferries, for example. I mean, it used to be a Crown Corporation, and now it's a private company along with the government, so it doesn't always work, And as far as I'm concerned, I would like to address it to the people who are representing the Parks, Recreation, and Culture, and I'll try to go to the next meeting if they have it, if they'll let me, and tell them how much this means to us oldies, because lots of us have lost our husbands and friends, and we make new friends, and it's a wonderful place. I can really say it's worth every penny that the city helps. I imagine the city helps with it, and if it has to be subsidized, so what? I mean, other departments have been subsidized, and I think this is very important for us, for our mental health as well as our recreational health. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, is there anyone else who would like to... Oh, sorry, Councillor Patchy.
Mrs. Kitchen, I got an answer for you.
Yeah, we have to... Sorry, they
I
Let
just
you get
want
away
to-
on this, sorry.
I just want you to know that the next Park and Recreation meeting is on January 25.
I can't hear you, Dr.
January 25
Parks and Rec
is the
meeting.
next Parks, Recreation and Culture meeting, and it's at 7 p.m. at Bowen Park,
All right.
and you should come.
And I will be able to address it there?
Yeah.
Because you're not doing anything yet, are you?
Well, you can come. You should come and talk.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Bye-bye. Seconder, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Now, next delegation, we're going to dealing strictly with, again, the 2012-2016 financial plan. Welcome, sir. We just need your name and address for the file.
My name is Jess Anderson. I just got a couple quick questions. I was over at City Hall this morning and found that some of my questions were a little too specific for the staff to answer right away, so I'll be going to the policy meeting next Monday, the finance meeting, with some of those questions. But I do have a couple on department organization within the city. It's been difficult to find out who to talk to about different matters in the financial budget. So who do I get an organizational chart from on which committees deal exactly with what? I asked this at the December 19th.
Are you talking about council committees or staff committees, sir?
Pardon?
Are you talking about council committees or committees of staff? Is it staff you want to talk to?
Both. The finance information comes to you from your departments.
Okay, we certainly can get that for you.
To know who to contact if we have a line item specific thing for you to deal with.
Your Worship, he could contact me, the city manager. You can contact me, and I will put you in touch with the right people that can answer your questions.
Mr. Kenning is the city manager?
Yes, I was told that back at the December meeting, didn't get any replies to the questions I had then. So I'm here again tonight to ask the same questions.
Well, my question to you, sir, is do you want to ask it of council or ask it of staff? I'm not sure.
Asking of council.
Okay, well, we can certainly get you a list of the different
issues are as follows. You have legal representation for the city in your budget and your financial plan. How much is it, the tendering process? When is it up? Is it every 3 years, every 5 years? Some of the stuff for arts and cultural projects, tendering documents and that are out of the city yard, the other end of the city. Some of it is downtown in different buildings. What citizens have trouble with is knowing who to contact or how when it's not something they're familiar with and how to use the city website, or, for example, getting a hold of the guy in charge of the whole thing. He's a busy man. You know, we should be able to get smaller inquiries done, you know, by having an organizational chart available at City Hall with departments listed on what they deal with. You have accounting, you have purchasing, you have tendering, you have lots of different documents that are dealt with in your financial plan. And if we're going to ask you reasonable questions about what and why, if we understand the process that's gone into it a little better, or at least who to ask about it, then we won't have to be in front of you asking.
Okay. Maybe to staff, if I can, is there a list online on the city website that deals with who's responsible for?
I believe there is. Actually, Mr. Holmes is just checking our website to see if it's current, but there's no problem with providing an organization chart, a current one. If you call my office, we'll provide it to you as soon as possible.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Seconder, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. The next, is there another delegation? Anyone else who would like to deal with matters related to the 2012-2016 financial plan only? Welcome. Matthew, we just need your name and
Oh, no problem. It's Matthew O'Donnell from good old Nanaimo, British Columbia. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about just the city auditor idea and just, I guess, kind of my thoughts about it. It's going to cost $150,000 to set that up. Obviously, it's been all throughout the news and whatnot. And this is to assure that the citizens that the city is, being fiscally responsible and spending wisely. But at the same time, the province of British Columbia is already adding an auditor general kind of to take on that job by itself, to deal with the municipal governments and audit them and whatnot. So it seems a lot more reasonable and fiscally responsible for the city just to allow the province of British Columbia to let their future auditor general do their job and properly audit the city and that way. And that would also be a little bit of a less of a conflict of interest for the city and probably avoid a couple of future headaches as well from your guys' end, because you'll probably get a lot of feedback about that. You probably already have. And also a thought that I had was just that ensuring that the city remains fiscally responsible, it kind of sounds like a job for the city manager already. That's just my opinion, but as a city manager, I would almost expect them to investigate and make sure that their respective departments are being fiscally responsible. And simply suggesting that we just spend an extra $150,000 on someone else to do the job for them doesn't really sound that fiscally responsible, considering this funding will be raised through the proposed 4% residential and commercial tax hikes. Now, one example I thought of, just seeing wasteful spending, just a layman looking at the budget and whatnot, is the $3.1 million going into Maffeo Sutton Park. I'm sure every type of park needs improvement. I'm sure everything could be better, but like I said last time, I really like Maffeo Sutton Park. It looks pretty good to me. It's beautiful, actually, and I don't really think that we need to be spending $3.1 million on Maffeo Sutton Park, considering it's at the same time that the city feels necessary to raise capital through tax hikes. Maffeo Sutton Park's $3.1 million could actually cover the proposed capital that's causing these possible tax hikes to begin with, and there'd also be a little bit of money left over, which then could maybe go into minor upgrades and maintenance of Maffeo Sutton Park, or maybe even improvements to our transit system, or about $1 million other things that the money could probably go into and be a little bit better. So I don't know, just a layman. That's my fiscally responsible advice, and it won't cost you $150,000 either. So
okay.
Thanks a lot.
But before you go, just a couple of quick points. Number one, dealing with the Auditor General, I think it's important to know that that's something that the province is working on. We do support it. Not all the communities in British Columbia do, but we support having them do it. But I think it's important to understand that we do not have control over the individual, nor do we have the right to tell them what we want them to look at. This is something that the province will I guess, delegate this individual to do, to look through the books and certain things. So it really isn't anything that we would have a great advantage in, because the information that they're gleaning from our books might be something entirely different than what we need from a financial or fiscal standpoint. And the other thing, the internal auditor, conversely, would be accountable to staff and certainly council. So the internal auditor is a different function. That's where we can tell the person exactly what we need and want. So there's a little bit of a distinction there. And transit is basically RDN, the regional district.
Those are points, actually really good points, but respectfully, don't you think that it might be a better idea for the city not to have anything to do with hiring an auditor to audit their own spending?
Well, we're still looking at that, but I think you're absolutely right, and I totally agree with you that the city manager is responsible in the end for obviously all the financial matters related to the city.
You think there's probably got to be a cheaper way though we could do it though, especially if I know
we're certainly looking at that, but I agree with you.
All right, sweet.
Thank
Happy New Year, guys.
Okay, you too. Second, all those in favor? Those carried. Now, anyone else like to speak about the 2012-2016 financial plan? Okay, seeing none, we'll move into the Mayor's report. The Mayor intends to make an announcement regarding the collective agreement between the City of Nanaimo and CUPE 401. And the news release, which will go out immediately following this meeting, dated today's date. And CUPE Local 401 workers in the City of Nanaimo have reached a new collective agreement. The 3-year deal covers the January 1, 2011 period to December 31, 2013. The new contract, recently ratified by by both CUPE and the City Council includes wage increases of 2% in each of the 3 years, as well as some modest improvements to employee benefits and allowances. The monetary agreement is generally consistent with other recent CUPE municipal settlements on Vancouver Island. The city is pleased, the comments that I made, the city is pleased to have concluded this round of bargaining in a productive and professional manner, and I want to thank all of those involved in the process, said Mayor John Rattan as he announced Council's approval of the new contract. Quote, "We look forward to a continuation of our good relationship with the union and our employees who provided such excellent service to the community." CUPE Local 401 represents approximately 750 Nanaimo employees who provide municipal service. And I just want to quickly add that I'm very, very pleased, and I think CUPE 401 worked diligently to see this contract through, as did our own negotiators, and I want to thank both sides for the very professional manner in which this new contract was achieved. Okay, we're going to now move into moving down into committee reports, and I just did want to say one thing. This might be a little premature, but still under the mayor's report. Last week, I had the opportunity to have a meeting with the Vice President of BC Ferries and the new CEO that replaced Mr. Hahn. And one suggestion we made, and they're interested in doing, is coming before Council at a future date and televising or putting on about a 10-minute overview of where they are and the kind of services they're having. And I think that would be an interesting session. So we're just working with them to have it, and it'll be at a televised session and carried over Shaw for those at home that would like to get an update on ferries. And in it, we're hoping they'll touch on where they are as regards the Duke Point terminal that's out of service as a result of the impact, and also when the vessel itself will be operational. Moving into committee reports, 10A, Social Planning and Advisory Committee, 2012 Social Development Grants. Committee recommendation that Council allocate the following social development grants for 2012. Sorry, Councillor Kipp, go ahead.
On a perceived conflict, I'm stepping out of the room on this grant.
Okay. So if we just show that Councillor Kipp has absented himself on a perceived conflict of interest.
Your Worship, if we're doing this seriatim, then I would stay for all but one, and I would step out on a perceived conflict of interest.
Okay, as well. Then I guess we'll ask Council, do you want to do the seriatim, or do you want to do it in one fell swoop?
One fell swoop.
Well, fell swoop, it sounds like. So the records now also show that Councillor Beswick is absenting himself on the basis of perceived conflict of interest. And so the committee recommendation, the Council allocate the following social development grants for 2012. The applicant, Altrusa International of Nanaimo, funded requested $5,000, and funding recommendation is $4,000. Chase River Elementary School, PAC, requested $2,000 for educational tutoring, and the funding recommendation from SPAC was $0. Brecken Elementary School, PAC, $2,000 for the school community garden, and $2,000 was the funding that was recommended. Uplands Park Elementary School, PAC, $6,000 was requested. Families supporting families, the amount of $4,000 was recommended. Georgia Avenue Community School, $2,500 was requested for a breakfast and clothing project, and $2,500 was the funding recommended. The John Howard Society, the funding requested was $2,000 for a storybook project, and the Social Planning and Advisory Committee has recommended $3,600. The Nanaimo District Secondary School PAC, $4,050 for their planned food for thought, and the recommendation is that they be awarded $4,050, the same amount. Nanaimo and Region Independent Living Resource Center Association requested $4,350 for basic computer skills and internet skills course, and the Social Planning Advisory Committee has recommended a $1,000 increase to $5,350. Telican Lalem Aboriginal Friendship Center requested $3,500 for adult student support, and the funding recommended by the Social Planning Advisory Committee was for $1,000 more at $4,500. I might just add that the city manager's recommendation that the grants to Nanaimo John Howard Society, the Nanaimo and Region Independent Living Resource Center Association, Tillicum-Lalem Aboriginal Friendship Center be limited to the full amount of their individual requests. So that is the choice. Oops, just a second here. Do you want to just, what's council's choice on this? Do you want to just deal with 10A and vote on that? And, oops, sorry, my screen is off. Councillor Kipp is gone. Councillor Batchy.
Thank you, Worship. In this case, I would move acceptance of all of them, but to include the city manager's recommendation to hold the Nanaimo Region John Howard Society, the Independent Living Resource Center, and Tillicum-Lalem to the original amounts that they requested for.
Okay. Is there a seconder for that? Moved and seconded. Discussion. Councillor Brennan.
I was surprised to see the three applicants being awarded more funds than they had asked for. However, I am a member of the Social Planning Committee. I wasn't a member at the time that this decision was made, so I don't know the full extent of their reasoning. So for that reason, I'm going to support it on the basis that that committee is a committee that I sit on. I work with those people. They are my colleagues in that situation. So I won't support the limitation. So I would be voting against this motion. But I do intend to have a discussion with the committee as to why they thought that it was important that they do it the way they did.
Okay. Councillor Reeves.
Thank you, Worship. I don't want to be mean-spirited about this, but I think if we start giving people more than they ask for, I mean, it's I don't know what the word is. It's nonsensical. I think if you ask for a certain amount of money and you get the maximum that you ask for, that should be it. So I am voting in favor of the city manager's recommendation.
Okay, and for my part, I see no other questions. That I will also be supporting the city manager's recommendation, and you know, for the reason being that I'm sort of concerned that where we arbitrarily increase the amount asked for, and I'm sure all with good reasons. I'm sure there wasn't just a knee-jerk thing, and there was some supporting information that was made available to encourage or maybe allow the Social Planning Advisory Committee to make these recommendations. But there were also groups on there. One particular one is the Chase River Elementary School PAC that requested $2,000 and got zero. And, you know, I think a certain amount of fairness is required, and we can't say, well, you're going to get nothing. You ask for $2,000 and you'll get nothing. However, some that asked for some got a great deal more, and I think we have to be seen as being open and transparent. And if somebody asks for X number of dollars, I think that's the maximum amount they should be given, and to arbitrarily increase that beyond that is something that I'm personally uncomfortable with. Councillor Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My mic's working now? Okay, thank you. I just have a question for staff. Is this something that usually happens, and does the Social Planning Committee or Social Planning Advisory Committee know that they should give what the maximum amount that organization asked for?
Your Worship, I'm not aware of it happening previously, and certainly if Council approves my recommendation, they'll know for next time.
Thank you. And because of that, I'll be supporting your motion to limit the funds.
Okay, I see no further questions on the motion to limit them to the amounts requested. All those in favor? Opposed? Councillor Brennan opposed. Balance of council in favor. The motion passes. And now, is there anything, we're going to go into Social Planning Advisory Committee 2012 Healthy Community Grants. No conflict either for anyone on council? Okay. So section B now, committee recommendation to council. Beg your pardon? No, we just did the A one. Now we're doing the B one, and council allocate the following healthy community grants for 2012. AVI Enterprises funding requested was $10,000 to increase the capacity to provide multidisciplinary and so on. It's there covered in your record. The funding recommended was $0. Nanaimo Men's Resource Center requested $54,000 for a substance abuse treatment program, and the funding recommendation was $0. The Nanaimo John Howard Society requested $60,000 for the Therapeutic Community Project Affordable Addiction Treatment Program in partnership with the Surfside Society, and the recommendation from the committee was $20,000, or basically 1/3 of the request. Nanaimo Women's Resource Society, $20,000 Stepping Out program, including the 16-step program, and the same amount that was requested, $20,000, was recommended. Shore Counseling Society requested $60,000 support services to substance abusers between the ages of 13 and 39, and the recommendation was $0. And Telekom-Lalem Aboriginal Friendship Center requested $23,423 for youth substance use service, provide 1.5 FTE position for youth substance use services within Telekom-Lalem's integrated service delivery to youth, and the amount that was recommended was $20,000, so it was slightly less than they had requested, and that covers it. So would somebody like to move a recommendation?
Move the recommendation.
Okay. Is there a seconder?
I'll second that.
Second? Okay. Councillor Bestwick.
Thank you. I'd like to speak to that.
Yep.
With reference to the Healthy Community Grants, and when the funds that we provide on an annual basis are provided for staffing purposes, I'm just concerned that it doesn't become an expected or an anticipated that on an annual basis that these same monies will be available for operating. And I'm hopeful that that information is expressed to the groups when they make applications on an annual basis.
Yes, Your Worship. The funding programs they have to apply each year based on the criteria that are identified by SPAC, and SPAC has been changing the criteria each year. If their request is for a new program and there's a funding of staffing associated with that, but it's within a new program, then that would be recognized as a new program. If it's a continuation, they're limited to 2 years maximum.
Thank you very much.
It's not going to be an automatic line entry then. Councillor Patchy.
Thank you, Worship. Actually, maybe a question to either staff or my colleague, Councillor Kipp, on the reasons why AVI Enterprises, Men's Resource Center, and Shore Counseling Society were not awarded any money, and kind of with particular emphasis on the Men's Resource Center. I'm sort of getting the feeling over the years that when I compare them to others, they never seem to get what they're asking for, even a portion of it. Is there any particular reason for it?
Thank you, Worship. I can answer some of that. Typically what the committee does is when they review the grants is they look at the criteria that, as the staff person said, that they established for that specific part of the grant or for that time period. I've noticed myself that sometimes the Nanaimo Men's Resource has applied. They did previously get a grant. I think it was to do with research for prostitution. They completed part of the study and actually returned some of the money because they didn't find that they needed the subjects. I don't know if there's any, again, believe there's any prejudice or anything happening with money allocation. I believe that the committee reviews the criteria, reviews the requests, and makes their decision based on the best value that they get for their money. One thing I'd like to mention on this one, if I hopefully answer your question, is that this particular round is $30,000 from the city's money, and $30,000 has been raised by the Nanaimo Addiction Foundation. So this is an absolutely interesting one. This is where a community group has gone out, and we doubled up the funding. funding. So instead of just being able to give out $30,000 in this round, the city, in conjunction with the Nanaimo Addiction Foundation, gave out $60,000. So that foundation, in fact, doubled the allotment this time that the city could give out.
Thank you for that.
Credit to them.
Okay, we have Councillor Kemp, you're on now.
Well,
that was what you wanted to raise? Okay. Councillor Brennan.
I just wanted to add to what Councillor Kipp said in terms of the dual funding, was that those two organizations, then SPAC and the Nanaimo Addictions Foundation, reviewed the applications, and it was a joint recommendation that came forward to the committee. So again, I think that underscores an independent look at the awards, and so an additional set of eyes looking at it, and those were the three that they supported, and those were the three that they didn't.
Good point. Thank you. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. We're going to go over to 2011 Grants Advisory Committee recommendation that Council, 1, award an other grant to the Arrington Therapeutic Riding Association in the amount of $3,000, and 2, award a security check grant to the Red Cross Health and Equipment Loan Program in the amount of $90. I think we probably could use move 1 and 2 if there's someone so inclined. 1 and 2, seconder. Moved and seconded. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. I might just quickly add, it was discussed this morning, a question was asked about the Arrington Therapeutic Riding, and it's my understanding from this morning's meeting that some 60% of the people using that are actually Nanaimo residents. So for those that are concerned that we're sending the money out of town, 2/3 of the people using it are Nanaimo citizens. Grants Advisory Committee, we're doing item D like Delta, amendments to security check grant policy. Committee's recommendation that Council approve the following changes to its current security check grant policy. Number 1, that the amount of the security check grant may be awarded to any one nonprofit organization be increased from the current $300 limit to a $500 limit per annum, and 2, that organizations no longer be required to submit financial statements with their security check grant application.
Move recommendations 1 and 2.
Moved 1 and 2. Moved and seconded. I see no discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Move into staff reports. We've dealt with A already. We'll go into B. And it's DP 759 at 179 King Road. Staff's recommendation that Council issue development permit number DP 759 at 179 King Road with the following variances. A minimum lot depth variance of 17.6 meters or 57.7 feet, and a Nanaimo Parkway character protection zone variance of 15 meters or 49.2 feet.
Move recommendation.
Moved and seconded. Discussion? I see none. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. RA 283 at 2171 Salmon Road. Staff recommendation that Council, 1, receive the report pertaining to the zoning amendment bylaw 2012 number 4500.009, which is presented under the bylaw section of the agenda, and 2, direct staff to secure the following prior to adoption of the bylaw, should Council support the bylaw at third reading. A, covenant for general building design, and B, community contribution.
Move the recommendation.
Move the recommendations, 1 and 2. Second. Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. RA 284 at 5412 Givans Road. Staff recommendation that Council, 1, receive the report pertaining to zoning amendment bylaw 2012 number 4500.010, which is presented under the bylaw section of the agenda, and 2, direct staff to secure the following prior to adoption of the bylaw should Council support the bylaw at third reading. A, covenant for general building design, and B, community contribution.
Move the recommendation.
Moved 1 and 2. Yep. Okay. And second, 1 and 2. I see no discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. RA 285 at 5341 Dunster Road. Staff recommendation that Council, 1, receive the report pertaining to zoning amendment bylaw 2012 number 4500.009, which is presented under the bylaw section of the agenda, and 2, direct staff to secure the community contribution prior to the adoption of the bylaw should Council support the bylaw at third reading.
Move recommendation 1 and 2.
Moved 1 and 2. Second. I see no discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. carries. Move into property maintenance bylaw 1990, number 3704. It's requested that council hear anyone wishing to speak with respect to property maintenance at the properties listed below. And it is staff's recommendation that council, pursuant to property maintenance bylaw 1990, number 3704, direct the owners of the following properties to remove the material as listed below from the premises within 14 days, or the work will be done by the city or its agents at the owner's cost. The first property is 34 Nickel Street. Anyone in attendance would like to speak to matters related to 34 Nickel Street, and it's a graffiti issue. The next one is 144 Victoria Road, also a graffiti issue. Anyone in attendance would like to speak to matters related to 144 Victoria Road? And the final item is 183 Commercial Street, also graffiti. Anyone in attendance would like to speak to matters related to 183 Commercial Street? Seeing none, if somebody would like to move the staff recommendation. Moved. And seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Item G has been pulled, and we're going into item H over on page 6, unresolved building deficiencies, notice on title, section 5.7. It's requested that council hear anyone wishing to speak with respect to unresolved... Sorry? Okay, let's carry on here. It's requested that council hear anyone wishing to speak with respect to unresolved building deficiencies or illegal suites for the properties listed below. And the staff's recommendation that council, by resolution, instruct the manager of legislative services to file a bylaw contravention notice respecting the properties listed below at the Land Title and Survey Authority of British Columbia under Section 5.7 of the Community Charter. We have 8 properties. The first one is 554 Albert Street. Illegal construction, alter single-family dwelling to include a suite. Is there anyone in attendance that wants to speak to matters related to 554 Albert Street? The second property is 1114 Thunderbird Drive, illegal construction, finished basement to include a secondary suite. Anyone in attendance that would like to speak to matters related to 1114 Thunderbird Drive? The third property is 4625 Wellington Road, illegal construction, finished basement to include a secondary suite. Is there anyone in attendance that would like to speak to matters related to 4625 Wellington Road? And the fourth property is 429 Sterling Avenue, illegal construction, finished basement to include a secondary suite, convert carport to a living space, and convert attached garage to living space. Anyone in attendance that would like to speak to matters related to 429 Sterling Avenue? Number 5 is 2627 Jinglepot Road, illegal construction, finished basement to include a secondary suite. Anyone in attendance that would like to deal with matters related to 2627 Jinglepot Road? Number 6 is 930 Brecken Road, illegal construction, finished basement to include a secondary suite. Anyone in attendance that would like to speak to matters related to 930 Brecken Road? And 135 Harvey Street, legal construction, altered single-family dwelling to create a rooming house. Anyone in attendance that would like to speak to matters related to 135 Harvey Street? And the final one is 771 Arbutus Avenue, illegal construction, finished basement to include a secondary suite. Is there anyone in attendance who would like to speak to matters related to 771 Arbutus Avenue? Moved, seconded? Moved and seconded. I see no discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. The information items, we have 4 of them. If somebody would like to move them. Okay, seconder? Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Does anyone want to bring forward anything to deal with any one of those 4 items? We may want to touch on D. Nobody wants to touch D, okay. Then, there's a motion to receive the information items. All those in, oh, sorry. Are you voting? All those in favor? Opposed? Now, if you want to push the button, it says... Okay, go ahead, because that opens the microphone up. Speak.
Well, it's confusing to me, the agenda, because there's the report from Ms. Harrison about the different options for rescheduling the closed council meetings and the briefing sessions, and then there is the reconsideration of the bylaw. I don't know what...
We'll bring it up under 19A to see what council wishes to do as far as meeting times go, if that's what you mean.
19A?
Yeah, 19A on the last page.
On the new?
The new.
Okay, so we're going to deal with it there in terms of the motion. Okay, thank you.
So we'll move into now reconsideration of bylaws. And Councillor Bestwick, if you'd like to start, please.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you. This will be the introduction of Development Bylaws 1A, that zoning amendment bylaw 2012, number 4500.009, RA 283-2171 Salmon Road, to rezone the subject property from single dwelling residential R1 to duplex residential R4 in order to facilitate construction of 2 units on the lot, past first reading.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
That zoning amendment bylaw 2012, number 4500.009, pass second reading.
Second. Okay. No discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
15B1, that zoning amendment bylaw 2012, number 4500.010, RA 284-5412, Jevons Road, to rezone the subject property from single dwelling residential R1 to duplex residential R4 in order to facilitate construction of 2 units on the lot, pass first reading.
Seconder? Second. Moved and seconded. No discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Number 2, that zoning amendment bylaw 2012, number 4500.010, pass second reading.
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? Carried.
And 15C1, that zoning amendment bylaw 2012, number 4500.011, RA 285-5341 Dunster Road, to rezone the subject property from single dwelling residential R1 to single dwelling residential small lot R2 in order to facilitate a 2-lot subdivision, pass first reading.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed?
And that zoning amendment bylaw 2012, number 4500.011, pass second reading.
Seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. We're going to move into now number 19, other business. Councillor Bestwick had requested a notice of motion for the scheduling of the in-camera council meetings, and it, as outlined there at the regular meeting of council held on December 19, 2011, Councillor Bestwick provided notice that he would be bringing forward the following motion for council's consideration, and the motion is that the time for holding in-camera meetings of council be rescheduled to the afternoon rather than the morning hours. So, is there any motion that somebody wants to bring forward on that?
Go ahead.
Well, I would move that the time for holding the in-camera meetings of council be rescheduled to 11:30 a.m.
Second. Moved and seconded.
Okay, yeah, all right. I think I've been reminded that I had intended to say for a trial basis for the period ending April 30th.
Just for the interim, we have one member council that's not able to attend for the next 60 days.
Yeah, and the intention would be to review how it works at that time and see if it works well for council and if it works well for staff. And it also allows us then to make a decision at the end of April so that Councillor Anderson, when he is developing his schedule for the September semester, and anyone else is able to manage their work schedules or whatever, but on a trial basis. And in essence, at this point, it's to accommodate the university schedule.
Okay, so basically yours is sort of 1B, then is what you're moving there, because of the 16 options. The one you're recommending 11:30 in the morning start?
What page is Ms. Harrison's report?
That's fine. No, does anyone want to?
Regardless of the option.
Yep, 11:30 is when you'd like to
The motion is that it begins at 11:30
fair enough.
a.m. on the dates that we have closed to council sessions.
Okay, Councillor Graves, did you have something?
Thank you, Worship. Yes, so just to be clear, so that's the in-camera meeting starts at 11:30, runs to whatever hour, and then the agenda, excuse me, the agenda briefing follows?
Yes.
And then we have the council meeting 7 o'clock at night as normal?
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay, any further discussion? On the motion, I think everyone understands it, I trust, or we can go through it again if you want. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. So we'll find my place again here. Jeez. Okay, delegations pertain to items not on the agenda. Up to 10 minutes. We don't have any actual delegations filed, so we'll move straight into the question period, which is agenda items only. Welcome.
On this last matter you just discussed, I'm trying to clarify what is meant by the in-camera meeting. In the morning, is this the one that Councillor Sherry used to refer to as the rehearsal?
No. That was the council briefing period I think he was referring to.
Okay.
This is an actual scheduled in-camera meeting which we have held for years and years and years and years. And all we're doing is just simply changing the start time. It was at 9:30 in the morning.
Well, I don't know what time it was.
And so it's going to start at 11:30
changing
now.
It now to 11:30.
Yeah, but it's not.
I'm not quibbling about that. I'm just trying to satisfy my understanding of the situation. Is there some place where that 9:30 meeting was posted all these years as an in-camera meeting?
The in-camera meeting? I'm sure.
I believe it has to be posted.
Ms. Harrison, do you want to go through that?
Your Worship, these are scheduled as special in-camera council meetings, and the notice is posted on the city's posting place and also on the city's website, and it lists the sections of the community charter that apply as far as what reasons we're holding the meeting without the public.
Thank you.
Okay, and the difference of that, the ones that I do see posted that may occur, for example, after a FIPCOW meeting, I do see those posted in the agendas before they happen.
That's correct. When an in-camera meeting immediately follows an open meeting, the procedural motion forms part of the open agenda.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Now, is there anyone else that would like to deal with question periods on the agenda items only?
Gord Fuller, 604 Nickel Street, and this has to do with the in-camera meetings as well. I've noticed a number of times, and in the community charter, that some of these meetings that have gone in camera, you've had a choice of whether to do it in camera or not. Others, you have to go in camera. Now, there was a whole lot of stuff through the election about transparency and openness. Would this council be willing to no longer put those meetings that would meet the criteria of may go into in camera?
I don't really know, Gord, if there really is that.
There is. You read the community charter.
Well, Ms. Harrison, you're parliamentarian.
Mr. Fuller is correct that the wording of the legislation is a part of a council meeting may be closed to the public if the subject matter being considered relates to one or more of the following. And there's a number of items. Yeah. We have had discussions from time to time with council on the appropriateness of discussing something either at an open meeting or in camera. So certainly from time to time that does occur.
Okay, thank you. I was just going to say, Gord, if I can, that I mean, I think I can't speak for all the council. They're here to speak for themselves, but I believe that everyone on council is just as anxious as you are to have open meetings, and I'm really not aware of any in-camera meetings that have been held for the sake of
the last one you had.
Which one was that?
I can't remember the exact nature of it, but I know it was one of those that had May in it. Actually, I had posted something on one of my sites, and Fred actually commented that no, you had to have it, and then I pointed out to him the section in the charter that said no, you may have it. So,
okay.
So there are a number of them.
Okay, hang on. We've got a couple of questions. Councillor Kipp and then Councillor Brennan. Councillor Kipp.
Well, a point on it. Absolutely, we need to become transparent. We usually go in for land, litigation, and labor. So land would be, if we're looking at buying a piece of land, we don't want everyone to know because Ted or Billy would buy it and jack the price up. The litigation, obviously, if someone's going to sue us, we go in camera. And the labor to do with our labor. I think what we have to do is once we've gone in camera and made our decision, we need to rise and report so it becomes public as quickly as possible. And to me, that's important because there are issues we need to speak in private that can affect things external to us. Yeah. Once we've done that, we need to rise and report, and I think that would help. That's my opinion.
Okay, valid. Councillor Brennan.
I was just going to point out that when you look up the definition of may in the Interpretation Act, you find that it's permissive. It permits it. It's not really a question of, well, should we or shouldn't we? It's the word may should be taken as permissive, as allowing it. And I think that's why you find it the way you do.
Well,
I think we're going to try to do everything we can, Gord. I know there's a lot of people that have concerns about in-camera, and I think we're going to do all we can to be as open and transparent as we can.
And you can also look at the word may in the opposite vein as what Councillor Brennan said.
Okay, we have one more. Councillor Bestwick.
Thank you, Worship. It's relative to the disclosure of the information that we did deal with in camera that I think has resonated some concerns with the citizens of we make decisions, we have discussions, we have debate in camera, decisions are made, and then the information isn't necessarily forthcoming to people's satisfactions about the decisions that were made. How long ago were they made? When were they made? What information was released? What information was withheld?